Alright folks, so I just took this out of the box. I'm really excited about this one. This is a Work Tough Gear Wolverine in A8Max steel. It's a stainless steel. Wonderful. Look at those handles. Love it. Love that jungle camo. And you know, the first thing I did, I put this in my hand and said, oh my god, this fits my hand perfectly. This knife fits my hand absolutely perfectly. I don't know if I've ever felt a knife that fits that nice in my hand. Those scales are done perfect. And the handle's long enough to do a little bit of lopping, which is great. It's got a nice, reasonably thick spine, functionally thick, I would say. 3/16, which is a thickness I really like for knives. It's really grown on me. I used to think everything needed to be 1/4 of an inch, but 3/16 seems to be the most functional blade thickness. I also like the depth of this blade, so it's a very wide blade, which means you have a lot of time with this saber grind for it to taper into a fine edge, which is going to make it really good for cutting. I literally haven't used it for cutting yet, but I suspect it's going to be really, really good. This knife just feels amazing in my hand. I can already tell it's already knocked the Architect 6.5 out of the water. But let's compare them, because I'm curious how they look, because I think this knife has more cutting edge than the Architect does. And I don't know yet, because I literally just took this Wolverine out of the box after the mail lady dropped it off. Let's see if this Architect wants to come out of its sheath here. Come in. Where'd you go? Alright. Let's take a look. Put them right up against each other. Try to get those lined up just about perfect. It's probably not going to be 100% perfect. You can see the blade length is almost identical on both of these knives. I'm going to dig out my handy dandy measuring tape. So on the Architect, we're at about 6 3/4 inch blade length to this handle scales. On the Wolverine, I'm going to go to the top of the handle scale where it sticks out the most here. It's about what it says, 6.4 inches, just under 6.5 inches. So you're definitely getting more blade length overall with the Architect, but look at the cutting edge. The cutting edge is definitely another 1/2 inch, or maybe even more than that. Probably more than 1/2 inch more on the Wolverine with the way it's designed. The handle kind of maxes out up here and then it sweeps down here. So, you know, if I was truly going to measure blade length on this knife, which some might consider cheating, I might come down a bit this way, and then, you know, where the blade ends, it's more than 6.5 inches of blade length. And you can see the blade depth in the Architect compared to the Wolverine, even though they have almost the same sort of grind, the same kind of saber grind. But this has another, since we have the measuring tape here, may as well measure it. So the depth of blade is, let's just for easy sake, 1 3/4 inch on the Wolverine. And it is just over 1.5 inch on the Architect. So maybe another 1/4 inch of blade depth, which is going to make a difference. I really like how the handle goes behind the blade right here. Just sinks into, it melts into my hand. Like, I just feel like it's part of me. This may quickly become my favorite knife. We'll see. You gotta wait for that initial excitement to go away, and I gotta use this knife a bit and see how much I like it. But as just the way it feels in chopping position, the way it feels up here, I can go up on the blade to do close-up stuff like this without having to worry too much about my fingers hitting the blade. and it doesn't have a choil, but yet I can get nice and high up for close-up work. So this, I think, is going to be my favorite blade out of these two, and I think this one's going to be going to another home. Sorry, buddy. I'd love to keep you, but I can't afford lots of nice knives, unfortunately. So yeah, I think the Wolverine's going to stick around, but this Wolverine is absolutely beautiful. Aurora Borealis knives did a great job designing this. I was wondering it might be too small based on the specs and stuff. For me, I was kind of thinking maybe the Mountain Lion would be better, but I'm thinking this might be better than the Mountain Lion. It's a good size because it's still wieldy, but still big enough I could do a little bit of light chopping if I need to, just to get branches off trees, and if I really had to, cut through a tree with it. The nice thing about the depth of this blade is if you baton this blade into a piece of wood, it's going to take huge chunks of wood out every time, and we'll take some video of that at some point. I think I'm going to do this is an initial impressions video, and then we're going to do a bit of some testing on this knife. While we're comparing knives, let's grab out the SE6. Forgive me just for messing around here. Here we go. It's probably going to be similar to the Architect, because they're basically the same sort of dimensions, more or less. Architect's a little bit longer, maybe. So yeah, you can see again, I've got way more cutting edge on the Wolverine than the SE6. SE6 is also probably going to be a little thinner. So you can see if I bring that SE6 up here, I'll just turn the blade sideways so it focuses here. Focus, you turkey. Ugh, doesn't want to. Sorry, folks. Anyways, you can kind of see the blade thickness there. And the blade thickness on the Wolverine's definitely thicker. So these are supposed to be 3/16, but the problem is the plunge grind goes a little deep, so you end up losing a little bit on the blade on the SE, but it also makes it lighter. I don't think it's a problem on the SE by any means. So yeah. I'm finding on these 6-inch knives, my personal preference is becoming not to have a choil, because I find I'm losing that cutting area, and for batoning wood I need every little bit of cutting area I can get to get through reasonable pieces of wood. So I think this is going to serve me a lot better, and it's reasonably light, and it just, ooh, that feels nice. I don't think it's blade heavy. It feels really well balanced. Let's just see if I can balance it here. Yeah, it might even be a little handle heavy from the end of the scales. If I go in just a smidge, oh, now it's it's really close to being at the end of the handle scales here for the balance, which is great. I don't have my other favorite bush knife with me because I cannot find it. I had it in a backpack and my wife moved it somewhere. I don't know where it went. So that would be my Tops Longhorn Bowie. Currently my favorite bush blade, but I don't know, man. This thing might kick it out. And then just for fun comparison, here's a Tahoma field knife, and if you go for overall blade length there, obviously it's got a couple more inches on this, but for cutting edge it's not far off. Still a little bit more on the Tahoma, but not a ton. But the great thing about the Tahoma is it can chop a lot, and it's just a very well designed knife. It can do so many different things. It's probably the best survival knife. So yeah, that's my initial impressions of this Work Tough Gear Wolverine. I'll talk a little bit about the sheath real quick. It's a kind of a standard Work Tough Gear sheath. They all snap in really nice, and they hold really nice. And it's got the drop loop on it, which is what I prefer on this type of knife. So then I can just loop it around my leg, and it just becomes part of me basically. Let's put the knife back in the sheath here, and we'll see if the knife will doesn't want to go in there with one hand. Yeah, it's still pretty tight. Probably needs to be, it'll break in a little bit. I've noticed that Kydex breaks in after a while, but yeah, no shake or anything, at least to start with. So it's really well formed and everything. I'm finding with Kydex, because I'm relatively new to Kydex, but this came perfectly with no shake in it, but now it shakes in the Kydex. So I don't know if Kydex just does that normally, if it kind of comes loose after a while, but not a big deal, because like if you're just moving around, it doesn't really do much of anything, but if you really shake it, it'll shake. And this is another Work Tough gear knife, the Clipatchy, one of my faves. So yeah, that's the Work Tough Gear Wolverine. Really nice knife, and I'm really glad I got it in stainless. It's going to make a really nice survival camp knife, all that kind of stuff. Because of the way the blade's shaped, I can actually cut on a cutting board and just go chop. And I'll probably be doing that with some vegetables in the kitchen here sooner than later. But yeah, what a cool knife.